With terrorism. Michael, in fact, you called me from Israel on the phone going past, I believe it was a funeral of an Israeli soldier there.
There were 13, first, thank you for hosting me. There were 13 soldiers that were killed last week alone, and one of the soldiers, a 20-year-old young man, was a friend of my family, and I was en route to the funeral of about 3,000 people. Literally people stopping in the street, watching and taking their caps off, and just the country was broken in half by their passing.
Well, let me ask you a question about the terrorism, because the Israelis have always been looked upon by the U.S. as experts in terrorism, of course, anti-terrorism. But you look at a lot of the blows they've taken here, and maybe there's some doubt that they're not that good at terrorism here. And with everyone here so focused on it, and they're looking to an example there that might not be happening, are they as good at it as they once were?
Absolutely, without doubt. Not only are they good at it, but the spirit of the nation, the citizenry, has not been broken. I was asked to go on this conference by the American Jewish Congress and the U.S. Conference of Mayors to learn how a mayor is to act in crisis. That was the theme of this visit. We visited the Hadassah Medical Center, we visited Army bases, we met with deputy prime ministers, the U.S. ambassador, and a score of other officials. I had a private meeting with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. This nation is prepared. It's not only prepared its citizenry, it's prepared technologically. We met with armored buses. We had a chance to see how they would respond to sarin gas attacks and all kinds of biological and chemical agents.
What does it say to you about here? We're not going to armor our buses. We're not going to do a lot of those things. When you come back as a mayor of Englewood here, what have you learned from over there that you can tell people here we're not doing?
I mean, we went to the greatest hotspot of tension in the world, the Middle East, and we learned that their citizenry can deal with this, but they've been living with attacks in their backyards literally for decades. The United States has felt terrorism on its shores, and in my private life as an attorney, I've represented a score of defectors and diplomats over time that had rooted themselves here, and I testified on the Hill in '99 that terrorists had found their ways to our shores. The United States, I don't think, has what it instinctually needs as they do in Israel, which is the acceptance of the inevitability of more terrorism attacks. Since they have not accepted that, they have not done the kind of efforts. Now, look, it's a different lifestyle there. In 1991, Scuds were falling into residential zones. Now they have to deal with about 200 deaths and about 40 attacks that are preempted on a daily basis. They've set up gates and fences. The mayor of Jerusalem calls it the gates of life.
What's your recommendation here, though, when you come back and you say, okay, I've been there, I've seen that, they're doing it well, better than maybe people think. Here's what I say we need to do here that we're not doing now.
A dose of pre-action is much better than a dose of reaction. I went to the Hadassah Medical Center. I saw the kind of utilities that they have. I saw the kind of resourcefulness that they had. They had children's wards that would combat or come out into a trauma center if they needed it. We went to Army bases where we saw simple measures, bookshelves that could be put in public subways in certain areas where people could find safe passage if they need it. The question is, how secure are we, and how is our vulnerability being assessed, and is it being assessed on a regular basis? This was something that was very important. I believe our nation has yet to learn how to catch up to it, but I'm very thankful of the close ties that we have to the state of Israel.
So our assessments right now compared to Israel are unrealistic.
Absolutely, and we're more vulnerable.
Well, you know, whether it's here or whether it's in Israel, I mean, you're kind of talking about terrorism as if it's kind of this inevitable thing that we have to fight, almost like a police force has to deal with various crimes in this country. You know, but I wonder, because when you go back to right after 9/11, President Bush's rhetoric on the subject of terrorism was that, you know, they're evildoers. They did this because they hate us. They did this because they resent us, something like that. And I wonder sometimes if that kind of rhetoric, and I don't mean to make it that specific, if that kind of rhetoric just kind of compounds the problem. Because you're over there, and I wonder, did you see this a little bit from the maybe? Did you look at the Palestinian side a little bit? Are they just doing this because they're evil, or is there something else to it?
We had a chance to literally see the divide and how close the different spots were in that region. The fact is that the terrorists here have no sense of propriety or care for life at all. There is no way you can protect yourself from a threat like that. The fact that they are evildoers does not do anything to prepare us as a nation in the United States to avert terrorism. The fact is that the United States, I think, is learning quickly But at this time, to answer your question, they have to have a greater understanding of the terrorist mindset. These are people that reject everything. They reject the secularist wall that we as Americans interpose between religion and state. They reject Jews, Christians, and even non-fundamentalist Muslims.
Isn't that a fundamental question when we're talking about terrorism, though? Are these people who commit terrorism just purely evil? They can't be reasoned with. Diplomacy is not going to work with them. Or are they driven, is it possible, to terrorism in some cases, not in any way to defend terrorism, but by the absolute frustration of not having a voice at the table?
I'm afraid that it's hard to negotiate at a table, at a desk, in this day and age with somebody who would blow up a child. They have secondary devices, third devices, so that the Red Cross ambulances that come up, the Magen David Adom as they're called there, actually will be destroyed in trying to help people. So to answer your question, I think it's very hard to give them anything more, because I think it would give them a justification for their conduct. The fact that they're desperate does not mean you kill innocent people.
The Palestinians would say the Israelis have killed our children.
Well, you know, my visit there was to assess our homeland vulnerability. It wasn't a political thing. Whether or not you're for or against what they're now dealing with, disengagement, is yet to be debated.
Michael, with a minute left here, the advice you give here, maybe the two top things we should be concerned about now here, with the likelihood, in your view, of another terrorist incident happening here, with a minute left, what do you think we should do? What can we do?
I think the local police, the regional authorities, the FBI, and our intelligence services have to make sure that we have a greater control, and it comes from immigration enforcement to education in the local municipalities. In Bergen County alone, we have 70 municipalities. Citizens call their mayor. They're concerned about what we're supposed to do. There's information, but it's information on a regional basis. It's not information that your citizen feels he can get. In the state of Israel, people can actually go and get their TV studios that are set up within 30 seconds. A person can walk into a studio and the information's at their hands.
But the other issue is, just closing, that Israel's the size of basically New Jersey, with a population even less. You know, we're talking about a country here of 250 million people that has to protect borders that are 3,000 miles long. You know, really, people feel vulnerable for good reason, I think.
Well, the proportionality of the attacks that they've been shouldering in Israel is proportional to the kind of attack that we shouldered on 9/11. If we even lose one more life to a terrorist, then it's really a shame that we didn't learn from the people that are out in the front of this war.
Okay, good. Michael, thanks for having you here. And by the way, you are, as you've said in the past, the only Sabbath observant mayor in the United States? Is that true?
Of a municipality, yes.
Of a municipality,
yes.
Okay. Significance of?
My municipality is about 30,000 people. The fact is that I am an Orthodox Jew. It's something that I take great pride in. I am an American that was on this conference, had a chance to meet colleagues from wherever the world. This is an opportunity, these kinds of conferences, to learn about your assessment of vulnerability and take home a measure of good cheer. And again, I am speaking through synagogues and churches throughout the state at this point.
Good. Okay, very good. Thank you, Michael. Anyway, time for one more break. When we come back to Power and Politics, Steve and I will have some time for final thoughts on today's show, and we'll bring Brian Murphy back for that discussion as well. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.